Welcome to ASE Spotlights. This episode we're looking at animal burials with me, Dr. Emily Johnson, zooarchaeologist at UCL's Archaeology Southeast. While I'm laying out this cow skeleton found on one of ASE's recent excavations, let's talk about why zooarchaeologists actually prefer the term Associated Bone Group, or ABG, rather than animal burial. An associated bone group is the articulated remains of an individual animal. Articulated remains in the archaeological record can result from many different practices. For example, burial with mortuary practices, disposal of unwanted animal carcasses, food waste disposal including jointed meat, and fleshed joints accompanying human burials. All of these are just examples, and the catch-all term ABG allows us to name these deposits without attaching interpretation to them before we've done our analysis. So what's involved in this analysis? Returning to our cow, my first job is to lay it out. The first thing I noticed was that the cow was in a poor state of preservation. The bones were unwashed, which had actually prevented further breakage of the fragile bones, although causing this to be a more dusty job than usual. I was a bit confined for space when laying it out, so I've grouped articulating elements. The skull is on the left, and then the forelimbs, then hind limbs, then pelvis on the right, rather than laying out the animal anatomically. I decided not to lay out the vertebrae and ribs, focusing on the cranium and limbs, which can carry more information about an animal for zooarchaeologists. Once laid out, I could tell the cow was not quite complete. It was missing its lower hind limb, with only one tibia and no tarsals, the ankle, or metatarsals, part of the foot, present at all. I measured one of the metacarpals and was able to determine that the cow was 116 centimetres tall at withers. If the cow had been better preserved, I would have measured other bones too, but with pieces of bone crumbling away, my measurements could have been invalid. I noticed from the pelvis morphology that this was a female individual. Cows have a sort of groove on the medial surface of the acetabulum, which is where the femur or thigh bone head goes in, whereas bulls have a built-up area. Next, I worked out how old the cow was when it died. The skeleton was fully fused, indicating an adult around 4 years or older, so I looked at the teeth. When zooarchaeologists age animals from their teeth, we look at what teeth are there, and if the full adult dentition is present, we look at how worn down the crowns of the teeth are. This makes patterns in the enamel, which is white, and dentine, which is dark, when viewed from above. We also look at the base of the teeth to see if the roots are exposed. This animal was 8 to 13 years old at death. This is a little older than dairy cows would usually be slaughtered commercially today, so could be considered an older adult. Interestingly, there was another individual in this context, a calf. I sorted through the specimens that had been bagged separately thanks to the expertise of the excavating archaeologist. Although even more badly preserved than the adult, which is a common theme with very young and very porous bones, I was able to identify some long bones and teeth. The teeth were unworn, indicating the animal was not yet eating grass, so less than 1 month old. Given the approximate length of the humerus, which was around 9 centimetres, although the bone condition precluded accurate measurement, it must have been near full term, so it could be a fetus or a newborn calf. While analysing these individuals, I was in conversation with the lead archaeologist about the context of the find. She told me that the ABGs, which included a horse in addition, were likely post-medieval or modern, based on the poor preservation potential of the sandy soil they were buried in. She said they were probably the carcasses of farm animals from a former nearby farm visible on OS maps. Looking at the burial position, it looks like the cow was slung in by its feet as they're sticking up in the air. This may explain the loss of the lower hind limbs, which could have been disturbed after burial by, say, ploughing, leaving the rest of the skeleton intact. Although we don't know how the cow died, we could suggest natural causes, like disease, that had made the meat unpalatable, as there's no evidence that the carcass was butchered after death. Let's look at the burial position of the calf. It was found here. You can see the teeth that I showed you earlier, and this position may indicate that the cow was pregnant at death. See how some of the ribs look like they curl over and under the place where the calf bones were recovered from. However, movement during decomposition may have had an effect. It is possible that the dead calf was buried with the cow, which may or may not have been its mother, in a usefully open pit. So, what can we say about this ABG? Well, we can say that an adult female cow and a very young or fetal calf died, probably of natural causes, and were disposed of whole in a pit. The individuals may represent a cow with a near full-term fetal calf still in utero, but we can't say for sure. With a stratigraphically slightly later deposition of the horse, it looks like the nearby farm was burying animal carcasses here in the site's relatively recent history. This ABG is a great example of some of the things we can find out from looking at an animal skeleton, especially when analysed alongside the context of the find. It was important for our interpretation that we didn't initially call it a burial with all the attached social and ritual connotations, as the analysis, and especially the legs skyward burial position, suggest practical rather than symbolic reasons for deposition. And that's why the associated bone group terminology is so important. I hope you enjoyed this brief look into just one aspect of zooarchaeology. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below.